Hello from Gardening at Douentza here in Ireland, and this video is about the books I've read which I've loved and which have had an influence on me. So this isn't a video that just dumps every book I've ever read or ever bought in front of you. It's one that talks about the ones that I found really useful. We've all digested a number of gardening books in our times, and you know, some are useful and some are less useful. So I decided to pull out the ones that I found particularly useful or that have been formative to me and just talk you through them a little bit. And that's what we're going to do right now. I guess a good place to start is the first ever gardening book that I got given, and it's this one, On Garden Design by Roy Strong, and my mother gave it to me when I first became interested in gardening. And you know, it's not a how-to book in terms of how to mix compost or anything like that. It's on garden design, and when I was designing my own garden here in Douentza, I used many of the principles as outlined in this book. So for example, let me just switch to the section on focal points. Okay. So there's a lot of information in here on focal points and drawing the eye, and I tried to use these principles when designing my own garden, when setting up the arches, so that you see something through the arch and you feel impelled to explore a little bit further. So I found it very useful there. And also there were other, I think a lot of the stuff in this book I've used in my garden. Flowering hedges, I loved his piece on that. Camellia flowering hedges, I love that. And the Hypericum, I have a whole side of my garden given over to Hypericum hedge, which flowers beautifully, flowers yellow. And I love this tapestry here. It's just a beech hedge, but what he's done is planted one copper beech, one green beech, and I love the tapestry effect, and I've done that on my own drive. So Roy Strong on Garden Design, I really enjoyed that book. Now I'm going to mention a group of books that all kind of fall into the same category, and they're, articles, gardening articles grouped together in book form. And we have Christopher Lloyd's In My Garden, which is a fantastic book, one by our very own Helen Dillon. This is Helen Dillon had a garden in Dublin up until last year when she closed down, but this book is a collection of pieces that she wrote over a number of years. Anna Pavard, oh, I love Anna Pavard. Also the same kind of format of book, organised by season. Hugh Johnston, In the Garden, also a great book. Robin Lane Fox, an British writer, very nice book. Well, I like it a lot. So what I find is that this type of book is very useful to me. I like to dip into them, and certainly during the winter months when there's not a whole lot going on, I find it very nice to have one of these for quiet moments. And those of you who have read my book, Journal of an Irish Garden, will note that it's styled along the same format. Moving on to a few more formative books for me, and this one on trees by Hugh Johnson, I found really riveting and such an informative read, a lovely book. And here are two by Christopher Lloyd. I love Christopher Lloyd's planting, and I've been lucky enough to visit Great Dixter Garden in England and see his work there. But both of these books were so useful to me for several years. I adopted so many of the ideas. I love his colour combinations, these zesty clashing colours that he places together that really vitalise you and make you excited. I love a garden, I love a border that's planted in that way and excites you. I don't want something that's restful and lulling. I want something that makes me, challenges me a bit. So I really love these books, and in one of them there's a whole section on planting up a large exclusively annuals border, which I did myself for about 5 years. My talk on annual borders deals largely with my trials and tribulations in doing just that, and trying to put into action one of the ideas, one of the principles I read in Christopher Lloyd's fantastic books. You may note that I like orchids, and this is the only orchid book I have here among this collection, the classic Cattleya, which I digested, and it's the most useful orchid book I have. Moving along, we have Greenhouse Gardening by Anne Swithenbank, and I got this book shortly after I got my greenhouse, and it was fantastic. I digested this book, and she has tables at the back here with lots and lots of different plants that you can try in greenhouses, and of course I had to get everything that was on her list. It went on like that for a good while, but it was a very exciting book to have at the time when I just had a new greenhouse, and that was really nice. I look at it less now, but I still remember it so fondly. Another wonderful book is by Anna Pavard, and I suppose I should mention her most famous book before talking about this one, and it's the Tulip book, which is basically a potted history of the tulip, how it came to Europe, and tulip mania, the big craze that hit Holland in the 1600s, I think, if I'm not wrong. But it's written in such a beautiful way. It's a real page turner. It doesn't bore at all, and although some might say a little bit heavy going, I think this book is just fantastic, and I certainly loved it to bits. Another book by Anna Pavard is the Bulb book, which is this isn't kind of fiction or literature. This is a how-to book, and it's basically, it leads you through all the different types of bulbs and her recommendations for different ones to try. So another book to pore over and to try and source the different bulbs and just annoy yourself really during the winter when there's nothing else to do except plan your garden. A beautiful book, Bulb. The third book I want to mention by Anna Pavard is The Naming of Names. Now, I mentioned this, but in a kind of negative way. It should have been an excellent book about the nomenclature behind plant names, and it also talks a lot about the botanical drawing and how they were used historically and the faults with that, and leads us through to modern times. But personally, I found it really quite tough going. And so I'm not really recommending that one. What else have we got here? Along the same lines, we have Christopher Lloyd's The Well-Tempered Garden, that comes really highly recommended, and I was reading this and enjoying it a lot, but unfortunately for the book, I was reading it at the time that my mother died, and by her bedside as I watched her die, so I think that kind of coloured my enjoyment of the book. I stopped halfway and never went back to it. So it goes. Another slightly negative book is this one here. I shouldn't say this because this is an Irish book published by Seamus O'Brien, who's a curator at the Botanic Gardens here in Dublin, and it's a book that details the trials and tribulations of Augustine Henry, who was an Irish plant hunter in the 1800s and who visited to China and is responsible for giving his name to many plants that we have in our gardens today, including Saruma henryi, which you can see here. The henryi bit is after Augustine Henry, and many others. And in this book there's a lot of information. In fact, if you've ever listened to Seamus O'Brien talk, this book is very much like he talks lots and lots of information. But interestingly enough, it details an Irish expedition to China, the one that took place with Jimmy Blake and Helen Dillon a few years ago. And here we have a photograph in the book of the Irish plant expedition to China in 2002 with a very young looking Helen Dillon and Jimmy Blake there from Huntingbrook Gardens, and Seamus O'Brien himself on the top right. And don't they all look very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed? The book has been inscribed to me by Seamus, whose course I did in the Botanic Gardens a few years ago, so I really shouldn't badmouth him, should I? A quote from the film The English Patient springs to mind in relation to this book and Seamus O'Brien, and it goes along the lines of, I wanted to meet the man who could write such a very long paper with so few adjectives. Now, there are adjectives in this book, but you get my drift. And that brings me to the end of the video. I just want to talk briefly about a couple of books I've read by Monty Don, the best of which was The Jewel Garden, which I absolutely adored, but don't have anymore because, well, you know, you lend books to people and you don't get them back. And there are a couple of other books as well that I certainly enjoyed, but can't show you because I don't have them. At the moment, I'm reading this Monty Don book about French gardens, and if you love France and if you love gardens, you will really love this book. And the thing I love about Monty Don's writing is that he has such an excellent command of the English language, writes so beautifully that it just it draws you along the way. The only thing was, I was thinking to myself what a fantastic writer he was until we got to the section on Versailles and noticed the word sycophant 4 times in as many pages, which kind of turned me off a bit, but maybe I was just being pedantic. And that really is the very end of this video. I've been berated by my husband for talking badly of people, but there it goes. That's just the mood I'm in. Some wonderful books there, and perhaps you would like to try them. Thanks very much for watching. Bye now.